Welcome to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe and hit the bell icon for new updates. When the TV show Overhaul first came on TV, Chip Foose wasn't just any regular car builder. He was the car builder. Cool designs, touching moments when he showed people their finished cars, and he looked like a movie star on screen made him famous. People watching didn't just like his work, they believed he was a really good person. Seemed like the kind of guy who could build amazing cars and be a great person at the same time. So what made him even more popular was that he seemed like the perfect family man. He was humble, down-to-earth, and happily married. He and his wife showed up together at events all the time, and it was sweet to watch. His car shows, interviews, and behind-the-scenes TV specials often had cute stories about their relationship. They'd talk about how she helped his career and how they both wanted the same things. It's the kind of wholesome, loving relationship that made him different from other people in the car world who were full of themselves. Every time Chip talked about his team, you could tell that family was really important to him. His fans weren't just following a car designer. They were buying into someone they could trust, someone who was loyal and devoted. Even his drawings seemed to have that same feeling. They were careful, thoughtful, and had real meaning behind them. He wasn't flashy or showing off. He was serious about his work. In magazines, there would be pictures of him with his arm around his wife. Both of them smiling easily, like everything in their life was perfect. It was the kind of love story you wanted to cheer for. One where being really creative and talented didn't mean you had to mess up your personal life. For years, that image stayed strong. But as the show got more and more popular and Chip got busier and busier, small cracks started to show. Nothing obvious. No big scandals or newspaper stories, but little changes. The way they appeared in public changed. Interviews became more careful and guarded. He stopped talking about his family life as much. The carefully built image still looked perfect on the outside, but underneath, something had changed, and fans started to notice. For years, Chip Foose seemed like he could do no wrong, not just as a designer, but as a person. But as Overhaul reached its highest point, and his name became known for perfect car builds and feel-good reveal moments, the quiet around his personal life started to say a lot. Fans on internet forums started asking questions. Why isn't his showing up in episodes anymore? Why did Chip seem less excited in some interviews? Why were there fewer casual moments? No more mentions of vacations, family dinners, or how she helps me stay balanced. The change was small, but you couldn't miss it. The man who used to share so much about what kept him successful had gotten quiet about that topic. It started with people guessing. Maybe it was just stress. Maybe the show had just changed. But in a world where what the public sees is carefully planned, small missing pieces often mean big things. Longtime fans started looking through his recent appearances. They noticed she wasn't at award shows. Pictures from public events showed Chip with his team members, but never with the woman who used to stand next to him. Even social media, which usually gives lots of personal information, didn't give any clues. No family photos, no mentions of anniversaries, nothing. The whispers got louder. And while nothing was ever confirmed back then, the fan base, who really cared and were invested, started to feel that something had changed behind the scenes. There was no scandal, no crazy tabloid stories, just silence. The kind of silence that makes people wonder. And in that empty space, the public started making up their own theories. Was there trouble at home? Had the demands of running a worldwide? Brands started to chip away at something more personal. As too many people, the situation felt un-Chip-like. It always stood for doing the right thing, being consistent, and staying committed. But now, questions hung in the background of every episode. Viewers weren't just watching for the cars. They were watching for signs, and what they saw made them uncomfortable. When Chip Foose went from a respected designer to a household name, few people could have predicted just how fast the spotlight would grow. The man who once worked quietly in a Southern California shop now had a camera crew following him around. Millions of people were watching his every move, and clients were flying in from around the world. But with that fame came something much more demanding than a TV schedule. Everyone expected things from him. Fans wanted perfection. Clients wanted miracles. TV networks wanted content. And Chip delivered over and over. but it cost him something. The price of that fame wasn't easy to see right away. Chip was always the perfect professional, smiling, calm, in control. But behind the scenes, people close to the shop say it was different. Long hours, early mornings, endless changes to projects, missed dinners, canceled trips, the kind of sacrifices that don't show up on TV but pile up in real life, especially at home. His shop wasn't just a business, it was his legacy. It grew. The gap between work and family got bigger. Keeping everything balanced became harder and harder, while the cameras filmed Chip creating another masterpiece. Him not being home became more noticeable, and, slowly, inevitably, the pressure started to damage the foundation he'd always valued most, his marriage. People who've worked with Chip describe him as focused to an extreme level. When he's in design mode, the world disappears. And that gift, what made him brilliant, may have also made him unavailable. Not that he was emotionally cold, but that he was emotionally consumed by his work. Add in international appearances, speaking at events, the huge responsibility of running Chip's design company, and you have a man pulled in 100 different directions. Fame, ironically, made him less visible to the one place he once cared about most, his own home. Ask anyone close to Chip Foose, and they'll say the same thing. The man doesn't stop. It's from the early days of building hot rods with his dad to designing award-winning custom cars in front of TV cameras. Chip's work habits have always been almost obsessive. And that obsession, while inspiring, may have cost him something even he didn't fully see until it was too late. Because when you put every ounce of yourself into your work, there's not always enough left over for the people who matter most. Chip wasn't just building cars, he was building an empire. Fouse's name became known for excellence. There were deadlines to meet, employees to pay, deals to close, and reputations to protect. While other shops chased fame, Chip built quietly, and carefully with his name on the line every time. And when you carry that kind of weight, personal life often becomes a distant second. Some insiders say Chip would work through holidays, skip family events, and disappear into his design room for days. Not because he was mean, but because he was on a mission. He wasn't trying to ignore anyone. He just couldn't turn it off. His brain was always sketching, thinking, and making things better. It's the kind of mindset that creates brilliance and sometimes isolation. Over time, those missed moments pile up. It's the partner who once understood the hard work begins to feel forgotten. The shared life becomes like two parallel train tracks. Same house, different worlds. And the empire grows, but the connection fades. In interviews after the divorce, Chip's tone changed slightly. Still gracious, still passionate, but with a subtle heaviness behind his words, as if the cost of greatness had finally made itself known. Not in scandal, not in drama, but in the quiet realization that sometimes building dreams means losing the ones you built them for. Behind every empire lies a story few people get to see. In Chip Fouse's case, that story may have involved a financial wound he never let the public notice, while his business seemed solid from the outside, booming. Shop, expensive merchandise. Coup/high-profile builds, whispers from insiders suggest there may have been something hidden beneath the surface. A financial strain that threatened everything he'd built. Some former workers quietly claim that Chip's design company was forced to absorb a costly mistake, a failed investment, a bad deal with a parts supplier, or even a quiet legal settlement. Whatever the cause, it allegedly created mounting tension both in the shop and at home. One former contractor remembered hearing about a check that bounced during a build that should have never had money problems. Another source claimed that Chip, known for perfection, was taking on more client cars than ever. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to. What does this have to do with the marriage? Everything. If you're already stretched emotionally, working long hours and sacrificing time at home. And then a financial curveball hits. It's often the final crack in the foundation. Even worse, Chip may have kept it quiet to protect his brand, to protect her. No public lawsuit, no public fallout, just quiet stress, silent dinners, sleepless nights, and a widening emotional gap. Those closest to the family believed this financial stress was never about greed. It was about pride. Chip didn't want to admit there was a problem. Not to fans, not to the press, maybe not even to his partner. And so, the man known for fixing cars with perfect balance slowly lost balance in his personal life. True, it paints a much more human story. One of a man juggling everything: business, fame, art, love, and finally running out of hands. When most celebrity relationships fall apart, the world knows about it. Press releases fly, gossip websites go crazy. But when Chip Foose's marriage came to an end, it was as quiet as a closing garage door after hours. There were no major announcements, no social media breakdowns, no TMZ cameras or dramatic interviews, just silence. And yet that silence was deafening to longtime fans. Those paying close attention saw the shift. No more posts with his wife, no family photos at car shows, no mentions of anniversaries or shared special moments. Slowly but surely, it became clear something had changed. And while the Chip brand stayed polished, the man behind it looked just a little more reserved, a little more distant. Public records later confirmed what many suspected: a legal separation and eventual divorce. But the court papers were sealed. The details locked tight. No alimony drama. No custody battles, just a clean legal line drawn across years of partnership. And for many fans, that raised more questions than answers. Why the silence? Why the effort to keep everything under wraps? Some say it was Chip's way of protecting what remained of his personal life. Others believe it was mutual, a quiet agreement to part ways without spectacle. Either way, it was very different from the way most public figures handled divorce. And maybe that's the most Chip thing about it. He didn't air his problems. He didn't throw blame. He simply kept building. But if you looked closely, his smile on camera wasn't quite the same. Not fake, but not as full. It's like a man who knew the cost of privacy and paid it in full. Digging into Chip Foose's divorce is, I tried to restore a rusted-out barn find car. You know, the story's in there, but the surface reveals very little. Official records verify that a divorce took place, but almost every detail remains sealed. There's no dramatic lawsuit, no tell-all book, just a quiet line in the county record book, tucked away like a misfiled invoice. But that hasn't stopped people from guessing about what really happened and why. Some fans believe there was cheating, though no reliable source has confirmed this. Others suggest emotional burnout, the kind that builds after decades of pressure. A few even think they simply outgrew each other. High school sweethearts split by the forces of fame and time. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. It wasn't just a minor speed bump. It marked a turning point. After the divorce, some people noticed a change in Chip's work. The cars were still perfect, but something felt different. The heart was still there, but maybe the joy was harder to find. Interviewers reported that he was still gracious and friendly, but much more guarded when asked about anything personal. One journalist even said it's like he built a firewall around his soul. This shift didn't hurt the brand's success. If anything, it made fans support him more. They saw the pain behind the polish. The man who gave so much to the car world was quietly carrying a weight no one could quite name. And while the court documents may never tell the full story, they confirm what many suspected. Something big changed behind the scenes, and Chip kept showing up, quiet, steady, alone. For years, Chip Foose was the face and soul of his design company. His vision shaped every line, every weld, every stroke of color. But after the divorce, some fans and insiders noticed something shift. The builds were still beautiful, but they no longer carried that same hard-to-describe spark. The emotional pulse that made Chip's creations feel alive. It wasn't that the work got worse technically. It was something deeper, something harder to measure. The passion behind the process. Employees reportedly said the shop's energy changed. Music still played, projects still moved forward, but the mood grew quieter, more focused, more mechanical, like the crew was following a recipe, not a feeling. Some even guessed that Chip began handing off more design responsibility, not because he couldn't do it, but because he needed space. Not just physical space, but emotional breathing room. This wasn't burnout in the usual sense. It wasn't creative failure. It was grief dressed in silence. A man who had given everything to his craft suddenly unsure of what it gave back. And though Chip never publicly said this period was a struggle, it's clear in the pacing of projects, the tone of interviews, and even the spacing of public appearances. Chip's design company didn't fall apart. It's important to note, the shop continued to deliver world-class custom cars, but those who watched closely could tell Chip was carrying something. That weight, that quiet storm behind the scenes, inevitably left fingerprints on the brand. It's like a perfect paint job hiding a dent beneath the shop's exterior, never cracked. But anyone who's ever built something from the ground up knows sometimes the real damage is in the frame. Today, Chip Foose is still designing, still building, still smiling in front of cameras. But there's a different energy now. Not worse, not broken, just changed. It's the look of a man who's lived through something private and painful and chosen to keep going anyway. A man who now carries wisdom where he once carried weight. Recent appearances show a slightly more reserved Chip. Still warm, still well-spoken, but less eager to share the personal details. He dodges questions about relationships. He redirects praise to his team. He speaks more about legacy than limelight. When he talks about design, there's a deeper focus on meaning. Not just looks, but what a car represents to the owner, too. The builder to the people watching. Some fans think he's stronger now, tempered like metal, reshaped by fire. Others say he's finally at peace with letting the myth fade and the man emerge. He's no longer just the overhaul guy. It's an elder statesman of custom car culture. It's a survivor of both industry pressures and personal heartbreak. Chip's newer projects still make headlines, but they seem more intentional, less about flash, more about legacy. There's something poetic about that, okay? The man once praised for speed and style now chooses slower, builds deeper meanings, and fewer words. In that silence, there's strength. In that shift, there's clarity. Chip Foose is still writing his story, but now he's writing it on his own terms. Despite all the guessing, the sealed court files, the subtle shifts in behavior, the whispers from former insiders, there's one reality that fans and critics alike must accept. We may never know the full story behind Chip Foose's divorce. Maybe we're not supposed to. For all the curiosity surrounding his personal life, Chip has never lashed out, never defended himself, never sold his story to a tabloid. That restraint in itself says something. Maybe it's old school honor. Maybe it's pain. Maybe it's just the way he copes with a wrench in hand and the rest buried deep. And yet the silence speaks volumes. The absence of drama, the missing commentary, the quiet fate of family mentions from interviews. It all points to a man who endured something real, something raw, and chose dignity over disclosure. In a world obsessed with oversharing that makes Chip a rare breed. What we do know is this. He kept building. He showed up. Didn't let personal loss destroy a professional legacy. If anything, it made him more focused, more human, more relatable. He reminded the world that even perfectionists have pain. Legends have limits. Because at the end of the day, Chip Foose is more than a TV personality. He's a person, a builder, a husband turned ex-husband, a father, a quiet warrior in a world that rarely pauses to listen. And maybe that's the greatest design of all. The ability to shape beauty from brokenness and keep moving forward one flawless line.